All right, so today, let's dive into something really fascinating. Like, just imagine you're leading a team or even a whole company, and you're trying to figure out, where do I put my resources for the biggest impact? Like, do you go for shiny new tech, a killer marketing campaign? Or is there something else, something even more powerful that drives success?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And luckily, you've provided us with some seriously in-depth research that tackles this head-on.
Yes.
It dives deep into whether knowledge, that sometimes intangible but crucial element, really is the secret sauce for companies that are killing it.
Exactly. We're talking about a research paper published in the Strategic Management Journal that uses meta-analysis.
Now, for those who haven't encountered it before, meta-analysis is like the ultimate research power move. It takes data from hundreds of individual studies and mashes it all together to give you a super clear, super reliable picture.
In this case, the researchers wanted to test a core idea from something called the knowledge-based view of the firm. It basically says that a company's true strength comes from the knowledge inside it. We're talking about the combined expertise, the honed skills, the insider insights of everyone on the team.
Right. Think of it like this. Company A might have all the latest gadgets and a huge marketing budget, but Company B, with its team of seasoned pros who really know their stuff, might just end up blowing them out of the water.
So this research is putting that idea to the test. Does knowledge really trump everything else when it comes to driving success? We're talking about tangible things like physical assets, financial capital, even things like brand reputation and strong relationships. All those things matter.
But the question is, do they matter more than knowledge? To find out, these researchers analyzed a whopping 348 samples, representing over 248,000 companies. That's a massive data set. They looked at how different types of resources correlated with three major indicators of a company's performance.
What were these indicators they were looking at?
Think of it as a company's report card. They looked at stock market performance, which is how well the company's doing in the eyes of investors, financial performance, like profits and revenue, and perhaps most importantly, growth. Because growth is the lifeblood of any company that wants to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. If you're not growing, you're basically standing still while the world rushes by. So what did they find? Did knowledge actually come out on top?
The results were clear-cut. Knowledge-based resources were the strongest predictor of success for all three performance measures. The impact of knowledge was significantly greater than any other type of resource they analyzed.
For those of you listening who are in leadership roles, this isn't just some abstract academic finding. It's a direct message about where your priorities should lie.
If you're trying to figure out where to invest your limited resources, this research screams, invest in your people. Prioritize their skills, their knowledge, their ability to learn and adapt. That's your golden ticket to outperforming the competition.
It's like that old saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. But in this case, it's more like, teach your team to fish and they'll feed the entire company for years to come.
And it's not just about formal training programs, though those are important too. It's about fostering a culture that values continuous learning, where knowledge sharing is encouraged, and people feel empowered to ask questions and challenge the status quo.
So we've established that knowledge is the king of the castle. But here's where things get even more interesting.
Yes, the researchers didn't just stop at the direct link between knowledge and performance. They also explored how knowledge interacts with those other resources we talked about, the tangible assets, the relationships, and so on.
Okay, so how does knowledge play with the rest of the team? Give us the inside scoop.
What they found is that knowledge acts like a turbocharger. It takes all those other resources, the raw materials, the fancy equipment, the network of partners, and amplifies their value. Without knowledge, those resources are like a powerful sports car sitting in the garage, all potential, but no actual movement.
Okay, I'm getting a serious light bulb moment here. So it's not just about having resources. It's about having the know-how to actually use them effectively.
Exactly. It's like having a state-of-the-art kitchen with top-of-the-line appliances, but no chef who knows how to use them. You might have all the ingredients and equipment, but you're not going to create a Michelin star meal, are you?
Nope, you're just going to end up with a bunch of expensive gadgets gathering dust. So what does this mean for our listeners who are in the trenches, making those tough decisions every day?
It means that just acquiring stuff isn't enough. You need to invest in the knowledge and skills that will allow your team to leverage those resources to their fullest potential. Think training programs, workshops, mentoring opportunities, anything that helps your people level up their game.
This also makes me think about company culture. It's not enough to just throw money at training. You need to create an environment where people feel comfortable sharing what they know, where learning from mistakes is seen as a positive, and where innovation is actively encouraged.
Couldn't agree more. It's about moving away from a knowledge is power and I'm hoarding it mentality to knowledge is power, and the more we share it, the more powerful we all become.
Now, I know our listeners love real-world examples, so let's bring this to life a bit. What are some companies that are doing this well, that are truly walking the knowledge walk?
Well, the tech giants immediately spring to mind. Companies like Google and Apple are constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And it's not just because they have deep pockets. It's because they invest heavily in research and development. They're constantly attracting top talent, and they've built cultures that celebrate innovation and continuous learning.
It's like they're not just building products, they're building ecosystems of knowledge. Think about how they've managed to diversify into new markets, create entirely new product categories, things that didn't even exist before. That's the power of knowledge in action.
Absolutely. And it's not just limited to the tech world. Take a company like Starbucks. They didn't build a global empire by just selling coffee. They created an experience, a sense of community, a brand that people connect with emotionally.
And that experience is built on a foundation of knowledge. From the baristas who know how to make the perfect latte, to the store designers who create those warm and inviting spaces. It's all about the systems they've developed, from sourcing the beans to roasting them to perfection.
Right. They've figured out how to turn the simple act of drinking coffee into a ritual, a lifestyle. And that's not magic. It's the strategic application of knowledge.
So we're seeing a clear pattern here. Companies that prioritize knowledge, learning, and innovation are the ones that are not just surviving, but thriving in the long run. But here's a question for you, our listeners. The research we've been discussing primarily focused on for-profit businesses. How do you think these findings apply to nonprofits or government agencies?
That's a fantastic question, and one we should definitely explore. Because in many ways, knowledge is even more crucial for organizations that are tackling complex social challenges or working with limited resources.
Think about organizations working on issues like poverty alleviation, environmental conservation, or public health. They need deep expertise in their fields, the ability to analyze data and spot trends, and the skills to develop and implement effective solutions.
And crucially, they need to learn from their experiences, adapt to changing circumstances, and collaborate effectively with other stakeholders. All of that boils down to knowledge.
Absolutely. And just like in the for-profit world, it's not enough to simply have a few brilliant individuals. They need to build systems and cultures that encourage knowledge sharing, collaboration, and continuous learning.
Right. Imagine a nonprofit working to improve educational outcomes in a community. They might have experienced teachers, dedicated social workers who understand local challenges, and data analysts who can track progress. But if they're all operating in silos, their collective knowledge isn't being used to its fullest potential.
That's such an important point. It highlights the need to break down those barriers between departments, encourage cross-functional teamwork, and invest in knowledge management systems that make it easy for everyone to access and share information.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where knowledge is seen as a shared asset, a source of collective strength.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to one of the most profound insights from this research, something that really stuck with me.
I'm all ears. What resonated with you?
It's the idea that knowledge isn't static. It's not something you acquire once and then you're good to go. It's a living, breathing thing that needs to be constantly nurtured, updated, and shared. In today's world, where information is abundant and technology is evolving at warp speed, the ability to learn and adapt is more important than ever before. It's not just about what you know today, it's about your capacity to learn and grow tomorrow. And that capacity is shaped by the culture you create, the systems you put in place, and the investments you make in your people.
Precisely. But there's one crucial aspect of knowledge management that often gets overlooked in all this excitement about acquiring and sharing knowledge.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah.
It's knowledge retention. It's great to build up this incredible wealth of knowledge within your organization, but what happens when those experienced employees move on? What happens when that institutional memory walks out the door?
You hit the nail on the head. Think about the cost of losing a seasoned employee. It's not just about their individual skills, it's about losing all the insights they've gained, the relationships they've built, the lessons they've learned, sometimes through hard-won experience.
It's like losing a piece of the company's history, its DNA.
Yeah.
And in today's world, where people are changing jobs more frequently than ever, this is a challenge that leaders can't afford to ignore.
Absolutely. So how do we tackle this knowledge retention dilemma? How do we make sure that valuable knowledge doesn't just disappear when someone decides to move on?
Well, it starts with recognizing that knowledge retention isn't just an HR issue, it's a strategic one. It needs to be built into the very of how the company operates.
One key tactic is to create systems for documenting and organizing knowledge. This could mean putting together comprehensive training manuals, developing internal wikis or knowledge bases where information can be stored and easily accessed, and having clear processes for capturing lessons learned from projects, both successes and failures.
It's like creating a knowledge library for your company. But just having a library isn't enough. You need people to actually use it.
Exactly. That's where things like user-friendly interfaces, intuitive search functions, and regular updates come in. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to find the information they need when they need it.
But it's not just about formal systems, right? There's also a huge human element to knowledge retention.
Absolutely. We need to foster a culture of mentorship and knowledge sharing where senior employees feel a sense of responsibility for passing on their expertise to junior colleagues. This could involve creating formal mentoring programs, encouraging job shadowing, or simply fostering an environment where people feel comfortable asking questions and learning from each other.
Think about it this way. Every time an employee walks out the door, they take a wealth of knowledge with them. But if we've created a culture of knowledge sharing, some of that knowledge has already been passed on to others.
It's about creating a cycle of knowledge transfer where everyone benefits.
And let's not forget about succession planning.
Succession planning is all about identifying those key roles in the organization and actively developing potential successors well in advance. This means giving them opportunities to learn from the current incumbents, gradually taking on more responsibility, and building the relationships and networks they'll need to be successful.
This is especially critical for leadership positions. A smooth transition of leadership ensures continuity of knowledge and helps maintain stability during periods of change. It's like passing the torch, but making sure that the flame keeps burning brightly.
Exactly. So to sum it up, effective knowledge retention requires a multifaceted approach, documenting and organizing knowledge, fostering a culture of sharing and mentorship, and implementing thoughtful succession planning.
And none of this will happen without a commitment from leadership. Leaders need to be the champions of knowledge retention, allocating resources, setting the tone, and holding people accountable for sharing their expertise.
Because at the end of the day, knowledge is one of the most valuable assets a company, a nonprofit, or a government agency possesses. Protecting and nurturing that knowledge is mission critical for long-term success.
So there you have it. We've explored the amazing world of knowledge as a strategic resource, from its impact on a company's bottom line to the importance of making sure that knowledge stays within the organization, even as people come and go.
And we've seen how investing in knowledge, fostering a culture of innovation, and embracing the power of continuous learning can empower organizations to not just survive, but thrive in today's dynamic and ever-changing world.
I hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, some new ideas to chew on, and perhaps even a little inspiration to go out there and be a champion for knowledge in your own organization. After all, in the kingdom of business, knowledge is king, queen, and the entire royal court.
And remember, the best way to honor that kingdom is to keep learning, keep sharing, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.